morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Wolfstar87 coming to you with something a little different. As you see, you're seeing my actual computer screen instead of in a game intro or anything of that. This is an introductory video. It's to a project I have been working on for the last couple of weeks. I kind of hinted at it at my last Power World video. It has to do with The Sims 4, but I initially was going to make this a different challenge. Initially, I was going to do the Merkland challenge. For those who don't know, Merkland challenge was made by a creator named Brianna Chen. I'm sorry if I pronounce it wrong. She created a post-apocalyptic world in Oasis Springs using the premise of the Mad Max movies with factions and things like that. And initially, I was going to do that challenge, and this whole project started with me literally searching for ideas for holidays for that challenge. And it spiraled into what you are about to see. I don't have it up at the moment because I don't want to ruin any of what it looks like, but I created this challenge. The premise of the challenge is a legacy challenge in a way, but a bit different. And I think versus attempting to explain without the visual, I will go over, that's what this whole video is about, is going over some of the key premises of the challenge, the purpose of the challenge, and then the next video you'll see is the playtest version. I have not published this. It is a Notion file. It's a complete Notion file. It's currently in what I call the beta playtesting version, which is where I'm going to actually play it to see if it works as a premise. And I decided I'm going to drag you all along for the ride. Um, why not? So, without further ado, I will introduce you to this challenge. This is what I call the Ashfall Legacy Challenge, obviously playtested. And I'll read a little bit of it. The artwork, for anybody who's curious and falls in love with the artwork, you're not going to find it online. This was generated specifically for this challenge and for my version of this challenge. And I want to make that clear, and as I read, you'll understand. So, Ashfall Legacy Challenge, a post-apocalyptic settlement challenge for The Sims 4. The Ashfall Legacy is designed as a flexible framework. Players are encouraged to rename settlements, redesign imagery, and adapt the world to their own interpretation of the apocalypse. The included images and lore represent one possible version of the world after the fall. Your story may look very different, and that is part of the challenge. And that's what I wanted. I have struggled for a really long time to do legacy challenges because, quite frankly, most of them are very rigid in their structure. You have to do A, B, C, D with Generation 1 or you fail the challenge. And I dislike that. It's not to say those challenges aren't fantastic, but I dislike that rigidity because, quite frankly, The Sims 4 is a chaos engine. Anybody who plays it knows The Sims period is a chaos engine, um, and I struggle with those types of challenges. So this started out as a 10 generation challenge and has morphed into this. As I said before in the little blurb, these images are my version of this challenge. Should I decide to release this? I haven't decided yet. I strongly encourage people to find your own images, replace the images, replace the lore, make it your own. You literally could turn this into a toxic wasteland type of thing. The images that are generated in this challenge, again, they're specifically for my version of the challenge. You will not find the images, so I just want to be clear on that. You're not going to find them online. They were specifically created for my version. Um, but without further ado, I will finish. The world did not end in fire, but in ash and dust, and through the ash we rise. So this is the main intro title. It's what sparked the entire thing. Yes, I did use ChatGPT to help it get these images. I suppose you could attempt to ask the chat to recreate these images. If you want, if I ever relaunch this, you I suppose could use the images. I don't have a license on them. Um, but I mean, it is what it is. So the very first thing you're going to see on the page, aside from the intro blurbs and the lovely picture, is this navigation key. This key literally takes you to 6 different key components of the challenge. You have your generation tracker, your quick start, your core rules, the world setup, story tools, building assistant guide, and optional items, and then calendar, holidays, and suggested bots. Um, I did that because it gives you click the link and it takes you directly to the page and what's inside it. You don't have to scroll down, you don't have to do all of that. We're going to scroll just for the purpose of this video. But that's what that is for. And we would touch all of these areas in this video. It's probably going to be overlong. I'm not going to explain everything in the challenge, but we are going to go over the key sections and things like that. So, timeline of the Ashfall. The catastrophe occurred over 50 years ago. Many survivors lived through the disaster inside shelters and bunkers. Younger generations are now emerging for the first time. Ruins of the old world still exist, but civilization is gone. The Ashfall Legacy is a long-term settlement challenge for The Sims 4 focused on rebuilding civilization after a global catastrophe. Mine is an Ashfall disaster. Yours might be a toxic radiation, and that's fine. I encourage that. You might want to rebuild it as a watery oasis. Go for it. That's why I did this. That's why I designed it. I wanted people to be able to tell their own story and to do it many different times. The premise of this challenge is for you to be able to replay this. You could replay this 50 different ways and have 50 different outcomes. Um, and that's what I wanted. Players begin with a small group of survivors emerging from a long-term shelter and must slowly rebuild a functioning community in a devastated world. Resources are scarce, knowledge from the old world has been lost, and the surrounding regions remain dangerous and unexplored. So the main philosophy. Ashfall is designed to support multiple playstyles. Players who prefer structured gameplay can follow the settlement progression rules and stage requirements. Players who prefer creative storytelling are encouraged to adapt the system to match their own world building ideas. The goal of the challenge is not strict rule enforcement, but the gradual rebuilding of civilization and the unique stories that emerge as the settlements grow over time. And again, that's what I wanted. I didn't want it to be you by generation one end you have to have completed the astronaut's career and have a level 10 in this, a level 5 in this, a level that. I dislike that. It sets you into a specific premise and it leaves little room for creativity, quite frankly. And it's I don't know. Some people love that, and that's fine. And this challenge does support that. But as I said, I'll continue. So this is the legacy trackers section. It is completely optional. It's for those who, as it says, some players enjoy keeping detailed records of their settlements, generations, and discoveries as their world evolves. The legacy tracker section provides optional tools for the players who like to track progress or document their challenge journey. These tools are not required to play the Ashfall challenge, but they can add an extra layer of organization and storytelling for players who enjoy recording the history of their settlements. And that's what this strictly is. This is optional. These two sections are purely optional. The last one was just recently added, so it's not actually on the original version of this challenge. But as far as a family tree goes, as this says, I did not add it. Notion, to do a challenge like this, to put a family tree on Notion is going to leave it very bogged down. So with this, I encourage find your favorite family tree app. There's a few suggestions in this little box here, and use that. If you want to use the in-game, that is fine. It is notoriously buggy, which is why I encourage outside apps and family trees. It allows you to design your family tree the way you want to instead of this is. Now, the first section is quite literally you click on it. Um, I'm working on the backgrounds. I don't know that that's going to stay, but I kind of like it. This is the original picture. This is a picture. Again, it's generated for my challenge. Um, and this is just literally, you click on this little tab, you go in, this is your table. Mine is set up, which this kind of ruins some of it, but this is set up for the challenge that is coming up. Um, and I'll explain that a little bit later. But literally, these are my Sims right now. That I have not started it. I've created them, not started it. But you literally set it up this way. So this is, I guess, a good um, what it is, but you literally have your generation column, you have your founding heir or person, you have the settlement stage that they are at. Right now, we're at the Vault Emergence. You have their traits, their aspirations. This challenge is designed for those who have mods as well. So if you have a mod that, in this case, one of my Sims has a woodworking aspiration, that is a mod. You could stick that in here and not have to worry about it messing anything up. And this is their role currently in society, their cause of death, major achievements, and notes right now, um, which is how that works. And I'll explain who my Sims are, and once I start going things, I'll actually go through the family tree and explain who they are, but that's a different video. And that's literally what this is. And then it takes you back to the main page. I don't necessarily recommend the back button so much. Just use the tabs at the top because it might mess things up. Um, this is the collections stage. Again, same thing. You go in here, you fill out your table, you fill out your checkbox. The way I have it designed is you name the actual, like this, fossils collection, the My Sims collection. You put which Sim completed it, what generation they were, what stage of the settlement that was, and then the checkbox and little notes if you need. You put little notes you can put in progress, and there you go. And then once you've completed it, change your note. Simple. None of that, trying to find it or anything like that. If you want to use a different tracker, that's fine. If you don't want to use it at all, that's fine too. There's no way that you have to do this. This is the settlement tracker. It literally tracks and again, this is still a beta version work in progress, but this is the stage that you're in, the generation that you're in, the districts that you've established during that stage and generation, what major builds. Example would be Ash and Stone, Vault Emergence, districts established, the nomadic campsite, major build, a house, and then your notes. That was a really, really bad example, but that's what we got. Um, it is 4 o'clock in the morning. Good examples are not happening. So the next is quite literally, this is what I'm calling the Ashfall Chronicles. You can rename this if you want. It's optional. This is strictly for documenting I have journal entries, and I'll read you the beginning blurbs here for mine. This is a crest that was generated for my challenge for my family, and their family model literally is through ash we rise. Um, I love the imagery that I was able to describe and get generated. It's perfect. This is for your charted territories. It's literally, you can create a table, you can create just a list of the territories that your legacy has unlocked, and you can name them what you want. Right now, our family is starting in the Crumbling Isles in Windenburg. This is literally the Vault Scout camp because they're coming from the vault. And you'll see what I mean when we get into the game. This is the journal entries. I created this as a kind of fun way. I've got to adapt it a little bit. But this is the Stone Expedition, which is the last name of the stone. And I'll go ahead and read this. This will give you an idea what the family that I'm doing is doing. I have to change a little bit of it. Um, but the intro literally is: the world ended in ash and dust, forcing those who could into fallout shelters and underground bunkers across the land. Those unlucky enough to be too far away were left to their fate as the doors sealed shut for over 50 years. On a remote island in the middle of the sea, just outside a coastal town, one of those early shelters is about to open for the first time in decades. Now, with systems and processes failing them all across the vault, the group of survivors must make a powerful and life-changing decision to stay or leave for the world above. Supplies are running out, and an unknown illness has become too much for the survivors to contain. The world beyond the vault doors is the only hope they have left, so a ballot was cast to choose the first scouting party to the world above and beyond the doors. It was agreed that every 6 months a new ballot would be cast, and the next scouting party would be sent. Hope was fragile as the survivors prayed something was left of the world long since lost. Day 1 Vault Emergence. Ashenstone steps out of the hidden vault shelter, scanning the ruined island before him with a small amount of hope that they can find a way to survive the unknown. It is his responsibility to determine whether the world above can sustain life again. With his brother Riven and young daughter Leora, they will be the first scouting party sent to the world beyond the vault doors. The finality of their fate weighs heavy as the vault doors seal shut once more. Whatever awaits them in the broken world beyond, at least they will face it together. And that's the premise for my starting family. Um, and I'll kind of explain their backstory in a bit. But that's what's going on for my challenge. Your challenge could be totally different. It could be literally Fallout Shelter type of Fallout game, which this is inspired a little bit by that and a little bit by a whole bunch of other stuff. The only apocalypse challenge I could find online was the apocalypse challenge, and I read the first few premises and kind of flinched just because it is not my gameplay style at all. It is very rigid in and structured, and this is not. But your next section that you're gonna approach is your world and gameplay systems. And this literally is a section that gives you your world setup. You click here, you have your world setup, which takes you into 4 different documents. These are recommended worlds. You don't have to use these worlds. They're just recommended. This is the settlement layouts. Again, you don't have to use it. Expansion regions, world usage ideas is literally what's in this section. I'm not going to go through it now. This is a large file. This is a large challenge. Um, it got bigger as I worked, so actually I skipped a section. My apologies. So for those that are just starting out this challenge, you're new. This is where you're going to want to be to start out first. And there is a quick link to this. This is your quick start guide. This is the guide. You literally can use this, go through it, and start the challenge. It's got 8 things. It's the smallest quick start ever, but you literally can start the challenge right out the gate from this without even having to look at anything else. Um, I do recommend that you read through the core rules. It's going to help immensely, but you don't have to. The core rules has literally got about 4 different things. It's got your starting conditions. Again, I tried to keep this short and simple, not a huge read. It gives you basically what this is going to be, what you're going to do, and then you've got your settlement stages. This is literally how this works. And I'll read the intro. It makes it a whole lot easier for everybody involved. But civilization does not return overnight. As your family grows and explores the wasteland, their small survivor camp slowly transforms into a thriving settlement. The settlement stages system tracks the progress of rebuilding society. It initially was going to be Oasis Springs, so again, this is beta testing, so there might be some punctuation, grammar issues, uh, last minute changes, but it's supposed to be in Windenburg or whatever world you pick. Each stage unlocks new construction, exploration opportunities, and community features. Players may advance to the next stage once the requirements are completed. And that's what I wanted. If you're at and I have to add a stage, again, beta testing. Right now we're in the nomadic stage. You can stay in the nomadic stage for 3 generations if you want to. You can stay in there for 10 generations if you want to. That's your choice. You advance when you want to advance. If you completed all of this to your satisfaction, move to stage 2. If you still think you could do a little bit more, stay in stage 1. There's no penalty for doing that. Um, and that's what I wanted. Settlement stages represent the growth of civilization. Players may advance, as it says, to the next stage of their settlement next when their settlement meets the requirements and feels ready to progress. And that's what I wanted. Literally, for the survivor camp, the first generation begins by establishing a small camp near the shelter exit. At this stage, resources are scarce and survival is the main priority. And requirements to complete is a basic shelter or shack, establish a food source, gardening, fishing, or scavenging, place 3 survival objects, i.e. a campfire, cooler, tent, simple bed, water collector. Those are examples. Restrictions: no large structures, no electricity, limited plumbing, off the grid options, or the outhouse from the nature event is perfectly suited. This stage represents temporary survival housing. Once you've met all of that, which is very simple to do, you can move on to the trading post. Or if you want to make it something else, add more survivors before you move on to the trading post, be my guest. There's no one way to play this, and that's what I wanted out of this. I didn't want to stifle anybody's creativity with this. District types, quite frankly, just gives you different types that you can create as you advance your civilization. And agricultural, trade district, industrial, residential, research knowledge, natural disaster, and then create your own. If you want to make it a whole, if you want to adapt this challenge, and I literally saw where this could happen, you can adapt this to a medieval playstyle quite easily. If you wanted to adapt it to the post-apocalyptic, they regress back to the Viking Age. Go ahead, please do that. I would love to see that story. Um, because quite frankly, I think that would be phenomenal. Make the artwork that goes with it. And then this is just the economy, as far as things go. How trade goes, how crafting and production go. This is designed to work with anybody's games. Um, it's regardless of what pack you have, there are certain packs that would be a good idea to have, but it's not limited to. If you don't have certain packs, you can still play this challenge. You could play this challenge using just the base game. Um, at least I hope. It's supposed to be that way, but that's where playtesting comes in. As I said, this is the world setup. It's got the world building in it. I think we've already. It's the world setup. Then there's island travel system. I came up with that last, so I don't think it's in the original. But since we're working out of Windenburg, I added this. This is an optional progression rule on how you can make it feel more realistic, more immersive. In order to cross large bodies of water, they have to be able to build a dock, research specific settlement stages, saving enough funds to construct a vessel, i.e., you literally can use the boat from the island living and pretend that it's a built outrigger boat. Quite frankly, that's what I'm doing because I couldn't find a boat that fit my style. I thought I had it, but then I didn't. This is exploration. This is just the tab that shows you what your expeditions are going to look like, discoveries and collections, your relic vaults that you would create, and hazard zones that you can create. And that's just a setup for those. Like I said, this is a hefty file, um, but I wanted it to cover as much different styles as possible. These are optional. These systems here are optional. Please ignore the spaceship in the background. The artwork originally, some of it was designed for a slightly different version of this challenge. So I decided to reuse some of the artwork because it's just too good. This is optional. These are your survival modes that you can do, environmental hazards, difficulties, trading system, custom story mode, all of that. There are two tabs in here that you can set up your environmental hazards. If you want to take and set up a dice system and you have an ash storm as an example, because that's where ours is going, and you have, you roll a d6, and if it lands on a 6, they have to remain indoors because there's an ash storm. If you roll a 5, it's an acid rain, and this is, possible effects of that. Toxic fog, additional stuff you could come up with, mutated wildlife, for heaven's sakes. Go for it. For the trading, this is also how you could set up your trading. I wanted to make it as immersive as possible using the in-game mechanics. So market tables, use those. The community markets, if you have the small business and hobbies, or business and hobby, there's two hobbies. There's two hobbies in that pack. But anyway, I bought it because I like the clothes. And I like the two hobbies. So there it is. But you can use that. You can also use Little Miss Sam's Live-In Business mod. If you want, I also have Plopsy in here as a system. It's it's designed to make it, and if you want to take and just sell to an invisible player from your inventory, ignore this. You don't have to use it. Um, and then let me see here. Where are we at? This is why I made the quick link. So this is the story and playstyles. These are your customization tools that you can use to create your own story. You literally can add occults in here. This gives you a premise, at least for mine. You can change it the way you want, but it is a way to add occults. If you don't want to add occults to your gameplay, ignore it. Don't use it. This is player lore. This gives you pretty much an overview on what you can do to create your own player lore. And then I have the custom world and settlements section. This is where you can adapt any world you want to this challenge. Um, and it will work. And you can do multiple different. Um, it's the choices are yours, and that's what I wanted. I didn't want to. I mean, and you can follow this to a T. You can literally, it will not upset me if you want to do the challenge the way I already have it set up with the Ashfall and go that way and see how that challenge works out using the entire story that I've got lined up. Obviously, change your Sims names. I mean, you can use my Sims names if you want, but I encourage you to make your own. Anyway, but if you want to do this the way it is set up right from the get go, don't change anything, go right ahead. I would love to see somebody actually play the challenge the way it sits, but I also want to see people play it the way they want to play it. And this is the next one is settlement construction. I made this because, and it is not something that you have to do, but this is what I call the building assistance guide. This literally is a section on there's a how to use, there's a blue. This is the format that I use, but these are blueprints. And what I mean by that is, it literally is. This is the overview of the farming section. It explains the lot sizes that were used, and you literally can click here. These are small farms. It is literally shows you, and this is a grid format that you can use for this particular lot size, which is a 20 by 15. All you have to do to use this grid is to replace each of these little things with one of these letters to represent what your house looks like. So you don't have to use these blueprints. You can use the template if you want. But this is literally a template for a survival garden plot for a small farm. And it tells you what you can put in it. And then I have at least two examples for each one. And somehow, yep, there it is. There it is. I was like, wait, what happened? And I did that for each district, for each section. I'm not going to go through them all. It's a lot. But I wanted that because not everybody is a builder, and that's fine. But here's a tool you can use to make at least two of each of these lots. Some have got four, some have got five. Um, and that's what I wanted. I wanted it. I even addressed the special lots. And I mean the special lots like the ones in Windenburg that you cannot do anything with. You can't change what they are, but this gives you ideas on how to adapt it to your playstyle. Um, this is a completely optional section. You don't have to use it at all. If you're a builder, you know what you're doing, go for it. If you need a little help in the building, here's a section for you. These are the final two sections. These are optional. Again, you don't have to use them. This is the holidays and calendar. This is suggested. Granted, they are somewhat based on my challenge, but I think they work for any challenge. There's two different types. There's survival traditions and rebuilding traditions. And I have at least four holidays for each season. They're pretty simple. Example, seed day. It's literally you just gardening, water activities, and fasting. That's pretty much it. They're simple. You can adapt them how you want. They use in-game mechanics. You can use mods if you wanted to. I have a few. I may change some of the ones when I get into that section. But I wanted to give holiday options. I see very few challenges that do, which is what sparked this. Go figure. Um, And then this is the suggested mods. I don't have anything in this section as of yet. It is blank. So, because I haven't added any yet. Like I said, this is the beta testing version of this. We didn't go through everything because it's a hefty. I'm not going to read everything. I'm going to go through it as I play beta testing, as it's what I'm calling it. But that is strictly, this is the challenge. I hope everybody has fun watching me play it and test it out. Um, Again, I haven't decided if I'm going to publish this fully as a challenge, as a Notion file. If I do, it's not going to cost anything. I didn't build it to make money. I built it so people could have fun. I'm hoping that when I go through it, there's a few things I've got to change. But that's what the playtest is all about, is to make sure that things work properly, that it's set up where it's simple to follow. Um, and so that's my little blurb. I hope everybody has an awesome day. Leave a like, post a comment, subscribe to the channel if you would like, hit the notification bell, and I will see you in the very first episode of the Ashfall Legacy. Bye bye!